I had some avocado toast with smoked salmon, and it was, I think, $6.50. We have our Social Security payments go directly into that account.
Having that local bank account, is that an easy way to get the tax rebate back?
Rick and I pay approximately $300 a piece for insurance. Their CDs are almost 10%, which is significantly higher than the United States. Well, actually, it's part of the Constitution in Ecuador. For seniors, they have 50% off. A lot of the expats that are living here are paying maybe $600 to $800 a month rent.
If Ecuador has any type of tax.
Last Saturday, we went to one of the brunches, and there were 29 people there.
Okay, well, after an explosive video about a very unique story in Ecuador about Mike, we have a lot of questions because this video has almost reached 50,000 viewers and everyone's asking lots of questions. A lot of the questions would be, for example, the cost of living, the healthcare, the safety, a bit more about the Ecuador community, and also a bit more specific questions about perhaps prescriptions and the like. So we have the famous man himself back. How's it going, Mike?
I'm doing great. I'm just really surprised at all the number of views on the video.
Absolutely. And you know, I'm really pleasantly surprised as well. Very happy that this message has reached the correct audience and that people are identifying with you. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Thanks so much for putting it out there. We're just so happy here in Ecuador. And right now it's a time in the United States when people are thinking about possibly moving to someplace overseas, and we've just been very happy with our move.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I can see now you're very comfortably in your own home in Ecuador. Isn't that right?
Yes.
So one question, actually quite a few questions people asked was about where you're living, because you live in kind of a nicer residential area, one of the nicest parts of Cuenca. Can you describe where you're living and where in the city it is?
Well, we actually live on Solano Avenue, which is probably the main north-south street. And so we've got the cathedral to the back and Turi to the front of our apartment. And it's a 7-floor apartment building. There's 7 buildings. It's gated. And just a really nice place to live. It's close to everything for walking or taking the bus, and we couldn't ask for a better place.
So, Mike, that would lead me to my first kind of clarification that a few people are interested in, which is the cost of living. We talked quite a bit about the cost of living. You mentioned your rent. Now, you just mentioned you're in a really nice place. Do you think your residential property or your residential area is one of the kind of highest cost places in the city?
I'd say so. Yes, it is. So a lot of the expats that are living here are paying maybe $600 to $800 a month rent, where we're paying $1,300. So we're really at the high end, but we have all of the things that we had at home, an open floor plan, big bedrooms that'll accommodate king-size beds, and so we're just very happy.
And at your place right now, you're actually not in your bedroom, you're in your guest bedroom, right? How many bedrooms do you have?
There's 2 bedrooms, and it's probably about 2,000 square feet in the apartment. And then we have 2 patios that are really beautiful that we've got plants on, and looks out over the mountain with Turi on the top, and it's just a beautiful place to be.
I see that you have some animals in the background, and I don't think anyone asked this, but is Ecuador a pretty animal-friendly type of city to have pets?
It is very pet friendly. You can pretty much take your dog any place but the grocery store. And you can take it to almost every restaurant. And, you know, if the pet wasn't well behaved, they might ask you to leave. But with our little dog, she loves going out and is pretty popular when we go to restaurants.
That's pretty cute. Actually, to bring that up, while driving through all of Latin America, I've seen such an insanely pet-friendly attitude in so many places. Like, for example, in El Salvador, when I was going to the malls there, they have like just dogs everywhere in the malls. And I wasn't,
Yeah,
back in
yeah.
America, like indoor malls, that's really not allowed, like really big indoor malls. And they're just pets everywhere in these malls. So that's just kind of my little feedback on that.
Well, pets are really, really important to the Ecuadorians. And in fact, just I think it was 2 weeks ago, the president took the dog food off of the sales tax, because he said that dogs are really part of the family.
Wow, that's very interesting. Let's chat a little bit about the political part of living in Ecuador at the very end. I wanted to just zoom in on the cost of living part. Okay, so we
Okay.
mentioned at your place that you're paying 1,300, which is pretty high for Cuenca averages. I paid far less than that. Obviously, I had a 1-bedroom apartment. You have a much bigger place in a nicer area. So it depends on where you go, of course, and what you're looking for, obviously. Now, people were wondering, well, what do you spend the money on besides that again? We talked about your full budget from your Social Security was what?
About $2,400 or $2,500 a month.
So what is the rest of that 1,100, 1,200 going to?
Well, we have we pay approximately Rick and I pay approximately $300 a piece for insurance. And that's roughly maybe just a little less than we were paying with our Medicare supplement in the United States. We've also paid $30 a month for our cable or our television. Our television, we have much more options than we did when we were in the United States. We can watch virtually all of the premium channels. And if I want to watch BBC or a French TV channel or a TV channel in Argentina, I can just scroll through and find what I'm looking for. We very frequently watch, we moved from Iowa, and so we very frequently watch the news to see what the weather is or what's happening back home.
This insurance is for healthcare for both of you, right?
That's for healthcare, yes.
You would also need to include the food and utilities on top of that, because you mentioned the TV. So how about like the electricity and food?
Our electricity rate runs about $30 a month. It's been as low as 21. So that isn't a very large expense. We also have quite a savings by not having a car, not having car payments, not having to pay for gas, for insurance. And so that's a huge savings. And as far as public transportation, it's when you're a senior, it's 50% off. Right now, I pay 15 cents a ride for a bus ride. And if I take the light rail, it's 17 cents. Cab rides are usually average about $1.75 to $2. So very, very inexpensive that way. We don't pay a lot for our transportation.
So let's take all of those things and combine them all together. So the 1,300 on top of the utilities, the transport, and the food, the
Foods,
groceries.
yeah.
What's the full amount that you two pay together there?
Well, it's probably pretty close to my all together with our dining out and it's probably comes pretty close to 2,000 a month.
Okay, so you're basically getting close to it, but you're able to save a couple hundred probably most months as well.
Right, and then Rick's Social Security as well. So.
Gotcha. Both of yours combined, it makes it very, very easy for both of you to
Right.
survive and have a
Right.
good quality of life there.
Absolutely.
that was one of the things someone mentioned about how your bills kind of worked out and also why your rent was so much higher than they had expected. Many of you in the comments asked, so Mike and I delivered. This is Mike's 2,000 square foot condo. 2 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, plus a laundry room and plenty of storage. He's on the 5th floor of a 7th-story building, part of a complex with 7 towers. It includes underground parking with 2 spots he can rent out and a large storage room. The amenities: sauna, steam room, whirlpool, gym, and even a 40-seat theater. I think some people have questions about, I'm not sure if anyone asked this, but I think it's a very common thing when people move abroad and that are retired, is wondering how they can access their Social Security. Now, I don't talk about it much on my channel. Obviously, I'm not retired, but from other channels, like my friend Scott from Scott Allen Miller in Nicaragua, he always talks about using your American bank account and not worrying about opening a local bank account. Is that what you do?
That's what we do. We have our Charles Schwab account that we have our Social Security payments go directly in to that account. And then we just draw that out to make payments on our Charles Schwab account. And so that's actually in the United States. We do have a bank account here in Ecuador, but it's really more for savings.
So how much do you have in this bank account in Ecuador, and why do you use it for savings there and not in the US?
Well, actually, one thing that's nice in Ecuador, they're paying for their savings or for their CDs are almost 10%, which is significantly higher than the United States. We also have things like the rebate that from our when you're 65 years older or older, there's a lot of things that you can get your sales tax back from the government, and you can get up to 130. Each of us can get up to $138 a month back. Now, generally, we're not going to spend that much that we could get that back, but there's all kinds of things from sports, activities, movies. If you go to the a concert, Sting is going to be in Cuenca this month. So those kind of things, you can get that sales tax back. And so it's food, clothing, lots of things are included, and that's for anybody that's over 65.
So does having that local bank account, is that an easy way to get the tax rebate back?
Yeah, it just goes right back in into that local bank account, and we pay for some things like our telephone is about $10 a month, or $20 a month. I'm sorry, for both of us, and I think that we have our cable TV, which is about $30 a month. I think that comes out of that local account as well.
Okay, so that's one of the benefits for opening the local bank account. You said the higher interest payments for savings, and then the rebate goes directly back to there. Those rebates I've heard are great. $260 per month. I mean, that's 10% of your
pretty significant, yes. Now, most months we don't get the full amount back, but
what is the average amount that you actually do get back?
Oh, probably anywhere from $60 to $70 a month. There's been a couple months where we had some major purchases where we got the full $138.
Wow, that's pretty amazing considering that your full expenses are 10 times that. It's 10%. If you did spend that much more, you could get that much back. 10% back is pretty amazing. And talking about your card, actually, I use Charles Schwab's as well. So for anyone watching this that is like not sure about credit cards, a lot of people, they like carrying lots of credit cards, which I think is a very safe thing to do. I don't personally use them, but I probably should. And I use the debit card from Charles Schwab, which has 0 transaction fees, international fees, no fees, and then no ATM fees. Well, they charge you the ATM fee and then reimburse it at the end of the month. So for you, Mike, you take out whatever you need in cash.
We're constantly doing that, but we get the rebate back for the charge for the ATM charge.
Right.
So
I
we
think
get
a lot of people don't realize that you can really just access most of the money you would probably need living abroad just by taking out the cash from the ATM. Some countries have pretty low limits. For example, in Peru, sometimes you can find banks that are like $80 or $100, and you're like, well, this doesn't help anything, right? But in Ecuador, actually, quite a few of the ATMs are pretty high, like $300-400, isn't it the maximum?
I think it's about $300. But,
Right. So
you take 300 and then you can get another 300. So, and with our Charles Schwab account, we had there was some fraud that was on it last week, and on Friday that we noticed, and a purchase that somebody was actually buying hockey pucks, and so we contacted Charles Schwab, and they. We had new cards that happened on Friday. We had new cards that were sent to us by FedEx yesterday.
wow.
On Tuesday. So it didn't take long at all.
Did you have to pay for any of the expenses for that, or they just sent it FedEx International?
They just sent it to us. They may have taken the cost for the shipping out of our account. I'm not really sure.
Well, regardless, I mean, I had a Wells Fargo like confirmed action that people were like literally charging on, I think it was Amazon or something, some things like a couple times, and I was like, this is definitely fraud. And they're like, okay, I had a problem with confirming my phone number because I don't have an American phone number right now, and that the one I'm using they didn't recognize. So I was like, well, can't you figure this out? They're like, nope. Good luck. So Charles Schwab is a lot better for that, obviously, than Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo has really, really disappointed me pretty big time. So another thing, moving on with this topic of paying for rent and for getting money from Social Security is the tax. Now, you pay tax in the U.S. from your Social Security, isn't that right?
That is correct. But I know that that's one of President Trump's promises is to take that tax off.
Let's hope he can do that, because from what I understand, getting double taxed for you to put in money and then take it out and get taxed twice is pretty crazy. But I think someone was kind of curious if Ecuador has any type of tax while you take it out here.
There's no tax for us. We don't pay income tax here as a senior. As I'm retired, I don't have any other income coming in, and so we're good to go.
Good to go there. So yeah, the retirement Social Security payments are not taxed. And one other confusion someone had was about the flights, and I mentioned this to you before, and it's kind of a confusing situation. Can you describe a bit of this for us?
Well, actually, it's part of the Constitution in Ecuador that they for seniors they have 50% off for transportation and costs. So if I took a bus or to Guayaquil, I'd get 50% off the transit costs there, and it's the same with. It goes. You make your reservation either with the airline or with a travel agent, and it's generally not exactly 50% off, because it's 50% off of the price of the ticket, but your taxes and things are not included. So it's not exactly 50%, but
I think
it's still a good deal. And if I were to fly like from Cuenca to Guayaquil and then Guayaquil to Miami, the Guayaquil to Miami would be 50% off, because that's it's a point-to-point of international. Now, my flight to Guayaquil would not be 50% off for whatever reason. It's just the international travel.
I think what you mentioned also is that this is a discount from the full price of the ticket, right?
It is. That's correct.
So what airlines typically do is they already are offering discounts for this or that, when when they're super empty, they say, okay, we'll lower the price, give discounts. So sometimes the senior discount will actually already be what they're offering on the website, right?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, I think that was one of the confusions people had, like, oh my God, I could get 50% off the actual price that they're showing. Well, those prices already have discounts, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's a good thing to describe, because I didn't really understand it myself, but yeah, now that we dug into it, we kind of understood it better.
And Delta, United, and American Airlines, those are all included. Not every airline accepts the discounts, but KLM and Iberia, the Spanish airline. So if you want to go to Europe, or you can go that route.
Right. So let's move on to another part of our discussion from our last chat, which was talking about how Cuenca and Ecuador is very gay friendly and very welcoming. And I kind of wanted for you to mention a bit more, because people were mentioning, oh, well, it doesn't seem like, I don't know, people had, I think, a confusion. Like you said, you feel very comfortable in Cuenca, but do you think other cities are not as comfortable for the gay community?
I think that probably if you went to rural Ecuador, they may not be as accepting, but the larger cities like Quito, or if you were on some of the beach communities, I think, or Guayaquil, those would all be accepting as well. And occasionally you will have an instance. I have a friend of mine that's moving, and he had a place lined up, and then the landlord found out that they were gay, and they weren't comfortable with that, and so that fell through. But it was an elderly mother that owned the property, and you're just sometimes not going to change people's attitudes overnight. But for the most part, I would say that everything is very gay friendly.
Sure, right. And you mentioned in our previous chat that you use a lot of Facebook resources to meet up with the gay community in Cuenca. Is that right?
That's correct. We've got a couple of Facebook groups for the LGBT community. One of them has happy hour twice a month, and another has a brunch that's held every month. And this last Saturday, we went to one of the brunches, and there were 29 people there. So that was pretty significant. It was a nice group of people, and then during the month, people will get together to maybe go bowling or hiking, or to go to the thermal spas at Baños. So there's a lot going on.
So people love getting to the nitty gritty. Let's talk a bit about the cost of your brunch, because everyone's like, oh, how much is stuff? And people love knowing. So what did you pay for the brunch at that meetup?
Well, I had some avocado toast with smoked salmon, and it was, I think, $6.50. And then I had coffee that was maybe $1.50. So I got by for about $8.
Not too bad for that, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. And someone also mentioned that that Cuenca and Ecuador as a country was actually did not put in the Constitution the rights of the LGBT community first. That in fact that was Argentina, which I researched it, and evidently that happened about 20 years ago. Evidently, I appreciate from the commenter the information, but I'm curious. Do you know any other? Do you have any other contacts in Argentina that has been there and that has kind of surveyed the country?
I've had some friends that have been to Argentina, and that live here in Cuenca and also in the United States, and they found Argentina to be very welcoming, and we just happen to like the climate here in Cuenca. The people are very friendly, and I'm certainly not going to be moving anytime soon.
Yeah, it's definitely almost night and day because Argentina almost has no mountains besides the Andes on the very western edge, and
Right.
a huge part, the biggest part of the population almost is in the mountains in Ecuador. And the mountains are fantastic. I'm in the mountains in the Andes right now, but in Colombia. And I agree with you. I mean, there's something special about being in these nice higher altitudes. It's less crime, less of that worry about safety, which we'll talk a little bit more in a second. But last question about this topic is, do you know any singles that are in Cuenca that are dating currently?
Actually, there's most of the guys that are in our group are single, and a number of them are dating. And interestingly enough, most of them are dating younger guys from Ecuador. So we're happily married, so I'm not going to bars or out at night much, but I know a number of them have found the love of their life here in Cuenca. So
Right. That was a question people had because when we chatted, of course, you're happily married, like you said, and people were like, well, what about the actual single people? So
yeah.
that's good for them to kind of understand that there is a community of them as well, of single men. And so let's move on to the visa type of topic, because I don't think we talked much about this in our first chat. And also you can kind of let us know how it happened with you and your husband together, because you can claim someone on your visa from what I understand. So what visa did you get and what were the requirements for your visa?
We have a retirement visa, and I think that you have to be able to show that you have an income of a minimum income of $1,300 a month. And so most Americans on their Social Security income alone would qualify under a retirement income. Now, some people are here on other forms. I'm not really familiar with it because we're not participating in that.
So with your retirement visa, since you have above that 1,300 threshold, did you also include your husband on that visa, or does he have a separate visa?
Actually, I'm really not sure. We each have our own visa and our own cedula. The cedula is like your government ID card. So it might be $1,300 per individual for each individual, but I'm not sure. I'm just really not sure on that.
Okay, yeah, I understand. I've met some other people that brought in their family with their particular visa. So from what I understand, if you are able to meet the requirements for your visa, then you have so much leeway to have other people on your same visa.
Okay, that's probably the case. Yep.
So that might be your case. I'm not sure. So if you look into that, let us know, and maybe that will help someone out in the future that is thinking about doing that same visa.
Okay.
One other topic that people were a bit confused about, and a lot of people just don't have any experience outside of America, or maybe they have, but they haven't gone to any healthcare services outside of America, which could be good, could be bad, whatever. Of course, you don't want to go on vacation and go to the hospital, but when people do end up in the hospital outside of America, in places like Colombia or places with just really good healthcare, Mexico has great healthcare, Ecuador, people were like, well, how could it be as good as America? You said it was as good as American healthcare. Can you describe that a bit more?
Well, there was one thing about Cuenca. There was a review of healthcare in cities in the world, and they rated the top. I think it was 50 or 50 cities in the world, and I think Ecuador or Cuenca was number 11. Which was higher than any other city in North or South America, which was pretty significant. We've got great healthcare here, particularly in Cuenca. Many people fly in on vacation just to get dental work done or plastic surgery. It's kind of a destination for for healthcare at greatly reduced costs.
So can you describe to us what that actually means when you're saying, well, it's as good as the hospitals or the healthcare? Can you describe what does that mean? Like, are the hospitals do they have the same technology? Is it as clean? What are the similarities?
They've got great technology. Particularly at the Montesini Hospital, which we would probably go to if we were to have an accident or need surgery. But there's many great hospitals here in Cuenca. Now some people that are here have used the public health care. The cost for that insurance is about $150 a month. And but you're limited. You have to go to the public hospital, and for your doctor's appointments and things, it may take a while. If I have a need to see my doctor, I can pretty much get an appointment the next day. And when we go to see the doctor, we're always there at least a half an hour. We don't feel rushed at all. We've been very happy with the healthcare that we have. I have a friend that was here for just a couple weeks and fell and had to have surgery on her shoulder. With her insurance, she had the better insurance. She only had to pay 20%. There's an 80-20 responsibility, and so she had to pay 20%, and it was significantly less than it would have been had she had the same surgery in the United States.
Do you remember what she paid, what the actual number was?
I think it was less than $1,000. I want to say $800, but gotcha. Pretty insignificant. I had an MRI done in the United States. It'd probably be over $1,000, maybe two, and it was it cost me $300.
People were asking in the comments if you can somehow use your Medicare in Ecuador, how that works out.
I'm not able to use my Medicare at all in Ecuador. Now, if I were to go back to Iowa and had a need for surgery or something, I could use my Medicare there in the United States, but I can't use it here. So we're no longer paying the supplement in the United States. Our insurance that we have here in Ecuador substitutes our supplement, and so that we're covered here in Ecuador.
And you mentioned you pay $300. Is that per person or to?
It is. It's actually under 300. I think it's like 285 or something each. For our insurance.
And that insurance will include
for each of us. Yeah.
And that will include pretty much any private hospital you would want to go to?
That's absolutely correct.
Besides factoring in Medicare, people were interested about prescriptions and knowing a bit about like getting medicine and what you actually do for that type of thing. Because I think in the US, we're just so worried about getting particular medicine because you need a doctor's appointment to get a prescription, blah, blah, blah. And outside of the US, it's not quite so difficult. How was it in Ecuador?
It's really pretty easy. Most drugs are actually over the counter, and most of our drugs that we get are generic drugs. So that brings the cost down as well. Where in the United States, I think you're usually having paying more for the name drug. So, what
exactly do you spend, and what kind of medicine do you get? If you don't mind, just jumping into the specifics about the medicine you're getting, and you said you don't really need a doctor's prescription for it, so it's more or less you just go to the pharmacy and you get it.
Pharmacy,
done, right?
You just take your prescription that you had from the doctor initially when you went to see the doctor, and you just take that in, and once you've had it, you can have it refilled and refilled. And so that's,
What type of medicine do you get, and do you mind sharing the cost of them?
you know, I I have to admit that Rick takes care of all of the medicine. He was in healthcare as a profession, and so I'm really not sure what all I take. But we talked this morning, and he said that it was less than what we were paying for medications in the United States.
Do you know how much less that was, or he just mentioned a little bit
He
less?
just said, I think it was kind of, it was close to, but it was less than what we were paying. So,
Okay, so you can take out the extra doctor visits, I guess, in order to not have to worry about that. But
right.
in terms of some of the medicines you're getting, is pretty similar.
And with the doctor's visit is $50. And with your insurance, with your 80% that you're paying or that you're getting back, you're really your doctor's visit's pretty inexpensive. My doctor, I was kind of surprised. He gave me his home telephone number, which no doctor in the United States would ever give you, and said, anytime you're having problems, day or night, if you need to reach me, just give me a call at home. There are doctors here in Ecuador that are still doing house visits, which is pretty rare. They haven't done that since probably the 60s.
Right. It's pretty common outside of America in certain countries. I think many countries, in fact. What was the name of the hospital you said that you go to?
Well, we would probably go to Monte Sioni. It's Mount Sinai. Would be the English way to say it, but it's called Monte Sioni in Spanish.
And these are hospitals with English-speaking doctors. You've had no
virtually all of the doctors and the staff at that hospital. I've been there for my MRI. We go there for our medications, to their pharmacy, and virtually everyone speaks English there.
Yeah, I think that's helpful for a lot of people. Some people mentioned, well, you should be in Ecuador, you should only speak Spanish, or you should speak fluent Spanish, and people are kind of intense online sometimes, right? But you mentioned that you were taking classes. Are you still taking classes? Because you're a student left, right?
Unfortunately, my Spanish teacher, Mateo, has moved to Germany to study German, and so I'm not taking Spanish right now. But I've may do it again. I have a pretty good vocabulary that I've got, and I'm working on the conversation when I'm out in the community.
Yeah, maybe you'll find a new teacher in this time coming up, because yeah, I remember when I met you, Mateo was just about to leave, and you're like, oh, I've been really enjoying these classes.
Yeah, and we met 3 times a week, and I learned a lot in the 6 months that I was taking lessons with him.
Absolutely. Well, you got to start somewhere, and I'm sure you'll find another person that can help you keep on moving along, keep on using that Duolingo, and you can keep on learning every day, right? The last topic I wanted to jump on is safety, because people were like, oh, Ecuador, news, safety, it's like, there's like the most amount of deaths in the world and blah, blah, blah. And we talked about this in the first interview, but can you describe a bit more about how safe you feel in Cuenca?
I really feel very safe here. We see policemen on the streets, but I don't feel unsafe at all. I go out I've been out in the evening walking the dog, and I don't feel like that, particularly in the neighborhood I live in. It's a problem at all. No, if I was going to go walking at night down along the river or under bridges, I might feel a little reluctant to do that. But I feel very safe here. I read the newspaper quite frequently, and I rarely ever hear about problems in this community.
Yeah,
there are issues with gang related issues, particularly on the cities on the coast, and I, we're really not beach people, so we have no reason to go to the beach or. Uh, um, I think that generally, for seniors, you're not going out late at night, and for most of the crime that happens either in the United States or in Ecuador is late at night and not during the day. Now, it's possible that you might have a pickpocket or something like that. I've just become very conscious of where I carry my wallet and what I carry in my wallet. I never have more money than I've need for that particular day when I go out. That if I lose $20, it's not that big of a deal. My cedula, which is my ID, I have a copy of that in my wallet, so I can make another copy if the wallet were to be stolen.
Yeah,
So.
there you go. Those are very good, logical things to do. I do all of those myself. I have copies of all of my important documents, except for obviously my bank card, which you can't make a copy of. I mean, people do that to rob you, but I mean, you doing it yourself doesn't. It's a little bit complicated, but yeah, just common sense, right? Carrying enough money for the day. I carry usually around $50 to $100 per day, just in case when I like go out to buy stuff. And having a copy of your ID, if the ID is difficult to replace, is good to have that. And yeah, like you said, I mean, you're obviously not a drug trafficker, or are you?
I've never done drugs in my life and never sold them either.
Right. So that's typically going to be the violent crime statistics that everyone's reading. It's crime mafia versus crime mafia. So the mafiosos attacking each other. Those are the crime statistics, not a bunch of innocent retirees in Cuenca getting killed. Right.
Right. Absolutely. The only time I ever felt threatened was by a street dog. You'll see lots of street dogs, but most of them are very friendly. This one just happened to be particularly aggressive, and I kind of stomped my foot, and he took off. But that was the only time I've really ever been threatened.
You hear that, everyone? That is pretty much the extent of the dangers you're going to see in Cuenca specifically. Maybe on the coast, you'll see some other stuff. Unfortunately, it's a higher probability, but in Cuenca, not. Now, lastly, let's talk about how the feelings are towards Americans in Cuenca as we have a bit of a turbulence going on and some uncertainty in the United States and not knowing how we're going to interact with Latin America in the future. How is that affecting you living in Cuenca now?
Well, I find that the Ecuadorian people are very welcoming. They really want that American or Canadian or European dollar or euro coming into their country. It helps their economy by our being here, and sometimes you get gringos. You might go to the mercado, and they might charge someone else a nickel for an onion, but you walk in and you're obviously a gringo, and they tell you that it's that onion's going to be 10 cents. But those kind of things happen, and there's always people like that.
That's going to happen really anywhere, though. That's the gringo tax. I call it the gringo tax.
Right.
And if you don't speak Spanish, you don't know what things cost, and you don't research it. I mean, it'll probably happen to you. Even if you do speak Spanish, you can pay higher than what it costs if they try and take advantage. It doesn't really matter if you're a gringo or if you don't speak Spanish. If you're not an educated consumer, that happens as well. But what I was more interested in is, for example, in Mexico. Mexico is kind of a place that it has a lot of tension right now. It's a lot more tense there than in Ecuador. But how is Ecuador? Do you feel that tension, or is that not really a thing?
Well, I think the tension might be greater again in the larger cities. Now, the population of Cuenca is about the size of Metro Des Moines. It's about 600,000 people, where both Guayaquil and Quito are over 1 million. I think Guayaquil is about 1.6, and keto might be 1.3. So they're going to have more problems in the large cities, just like in the United States.
And how about the effect of the elections happening? Is that, I mean, in general, expats, people living abroad or immigrating to other countries, I mean, it's not really something, if you have your residency already, if you're there legally, it doesn't matter at all. But it will matter, or will it?
It really doesn't matter, except that I think that particularly with our president that we have right now, has done a good job at building secure prisons to hold the drug traffickers, and has really worked hard putting the military and the police working together to and make it safer. So I think, sometimes it does make a difference who's elected. The elections here are very interesting. You can register to vote when you're 16. You're required to vote. Or register when you become 16, but you're not required to vote until you're 18. People's 18 to 65 must vote, or else they can have a fine that they have to pay. For not voting.
Right. It's actually quite common in other countries like Peru. That was the first time I saw that. They get fined. I think it's like, what, $10 or something, but still, it's
like $46, I think, is the minimum. But $46 for the average Ecuadorian is that their monthly income might be $300-400. That $46 is pretty significant. So they do have a high turnout for their election. We had the election for president. There were 17 candidates that were running. None of the candidates got over 50%, and so the top 2 candidates will be in a runoff election that'll be in April. So.
Right. So besides, yeah, you're right about the hospitals. Sorry, not about the hospital. About the safety. The safety of the country can definitely swing up and down depending on who's running it. But in terms of like, if you already are there, you don't have to worry about your visa, really anything happening to your visa. You're already here.
I wouldn't worry about those kind of things. Yeah.
Right. I think it's just more for someone perhaps that is thinking about moving to Ecuador in the future, because with the new president, they can decide, okay, we want less, we want more foreigners, and they can change that idea, the limits that they have right now.
Yeah, I really think that whoever is elected, they're going to want that gringo dollars that are coming into the country, and it's good for their economy. So I don't see them closing the door.
Is there any last minute comments you wanted to say to all these people? I mean, your video, it reached a huge audience. I'm really happy that we were able to spread your message and tell your story. Is there any last minute ideas you wanted to share?
Well, I just am looking forward to more of your videos and your YouTube stories as you travel throughout South America, and they're just so enjoyable, and you're such an engaging personality that I think anybody that's thinking about either moving to South America or Central America, or just visiting it as a tourist, you certainly have done a great service through your YouTube videos.
Oh, I really appreciate that, Mike. Very warm words. And if anyone has any questions, further questions for Mike that we didn't answer here, just drop those down in the comments. And like Mike said, I've covered a lot about Latin America, Central and South America. So far in South America, I have covered Colombia, Ecuador, and a little bit of Peru. I'll be going through the rest in these next 2 years, showing you as much as I can, and going to places like Brazil that hasn't been covered that much. So I'm excited to show you guys all of this stuff. If you want to see more expat chats, you can check out the expat playlist, expat chat playlist. I made that to try and show you guys all these chats I had with people from Guatemala all the way down. And I'm really happy I was able to chat with you again, Mike, today. Yeah, really appreciate your time.
And I was actually surprised with the number of friends that I have that I had no idea that watched your YouTube channel and told me that they had seen our chat just by following you.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, I really appreciate all of your friends and all of your contacts checking out our conversation and spreading the word. It was really cool to reach such a big audience, and I really hope your information continues to help future expats, future retirees, immigrants going to anywhere in Latin America, specifically Cuenca, because people are a little iffy about Cuenca. I hope this information helps to resolve those doubts. All right, guys.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike, and I'll
bet.
see you guys in the next one.